place to go. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Greg Peters coming at you today to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you're celebrating, whatever you're grateful for this time of year. I hope each and every one of you is having an awesome day. Today's video, I got this idea from one of my friends and I thought it would be pretty cool to make. It's basically a flashback of 2018 car passion style, everything that happened to the Miata the whole year. And I think it's an awesome idea because number one, we've amassed over 14,000 new subscribers this year. What's up, y'all? And number two, I know not everybody is keeping up with the Thecarpassions and watching every step and knows everything that's going on with the car. So now you can check out everything that happened in 2018 in one short video and have a better idea of what's going to go on moving forward into 2019. So grab a tall glass of cold eggnog and enjoy the show. So I actually want to start by going to the end of 2017, November 8th to be exact. November 8th was the first day that I turned the key on the freshly rebuilt Miata project I'd been building for a year and a half, new drivetrain, new engine, new turbo setup, and in my mind at that time, I thought it was completed, a finished build. In that I knew that there were going to be some little kinks to work out, some bugs here and there, but in my mind the car was pretty much finished. Boy, did I have a lot in store for myself. So I turned the key, I went to put it in reverse, and the car didn't move because I realized that 2 weeks earlier, that bolt that I pulled out of the transmission, which I thought was the fill plug, was actually the reverse selector detent, and I had to drop that transmission and take it apart to fix it so it could go into reverse. But no big deal, I put it all back in the car, and November 18th was the first day that I drove the Miata. What a glorious day that was, and at that point, I thought, now we're rolling. Until 5 days later, when the engine was leaking oil profusely, and I had low compression in 2 cylinders. I didn't really talk about that anywhere ever. But it wasn't that big of a deal. Just had to tighten up those oil galley plugs on the back of the head, and I had to re-torque the head. What I figured out is even though there's a recommended torque specification, which was 65 pound-feet, I talked to some people that built some higher horsepower Miata engines and they said, no way, you gotta go at least 70, 75 pound-feet of torque, especially with the Cometic MLS head gasket. So I did that, and then voila, the compression was perfectly healthy, and we're on the road. December 17th, 2017. I get the car on the dyno, I do some tuning, and it makes fantastic numbers, no problems all day. 332 horsepower on 91 octane and 415 horsepower on E85. More than I was even expecting, and the car was running great. So I was ripping around town, I just could not believe how fast the car was, and I was loving it. Until 4 days after the tune, when the Miata 6-speed bit the dust. I was so hurt at that point. I just couldn't believe that I went 4 days after all that work of building the car, and it went through a transmission. And I really didn't post about that either. I went to the junkyard, and within a day, I had found another 6-speed, pulled it, swapped the transmission in my car, and I was on the road again. And I told myself, I'm just gonna forget that even happened, fluke thing, whatever, it's gonna be fine. 7 days later, that 6-speed, same case, dead. And those bad boys are $700 a piece, so I knew I couldn't afford to keep doing that every week. So I took my old trusty 5-speed transmission, put that back in the car, and turned the boost all the way down. At 230 horsepower, of course, the car was still fun, but I really wasn't reaping the benefits of all the work that I had put in to get that thing over 400. During the process of putting the 5-speed back in the car, I also got on the horn with K Miata, and I bought their Getrag 260 swap in January. Now, with the car running so great and being fun with the 5-speed in it, I wasn't eager to take it apart again. I was still waiting for a couple things from K Miata, so I figured I'd just leave it for a while and enjoy it. So sometime towards the end of January, I'm getting off the freeway and I see a huge plume of oil smoke out of the back of the Miata. And yeah, it freaked me out. The engine barely had 1,000 miles on it, and I told myself, it's probably valve stem seals. I had all these horror stories of SuperTech valve stem seals in my head, and I thought, that has to be it. So got a set of OEM valve stem seals, swapped them all out, no problem, until I discovered this. That is a deep gouge in one of the cam caps. Some foreign piece of metal lodged into it, and I was pretty upset when I found that, but I wanted to avoid buying another head and rebuilding it and doing all that, so I did some searching online and I took a risk, and I just sanded down that cam cap. I fixed the damage on the cam the best I could, and I mean, it's still going strong now, and I didn't talk about that on the channel either because I knew I would be just ridiculed for doing something like that, but 4,000 miles later, we're still good to go. So I put the motor all back together, and it still had the smoking issue, and it still does today, but it's random, it's sporadic, I can't really replicate it. It doesn't happen often enough for me to be so concerned that I need to take the engine apart to try to figure out what it is, because there's not going to be any guarantee that I'll find out what it is, and I might do more harm than good tearing that engine apart to rebuild it. Like I said, it's so sporadic, it's not really a concern at this point. So everything's going great now. I'm turning the boost up, you know, just a little bit, maybe 250 horsepower, no more, you know, I don't want to get greedy. And the car feels plenty fast, it's still fun. I'm doing some pulls, I'm like, dang, this thing's reliable, it's awesome, having some fun with it. I'm gonna take it drag racing. So Thursday before drag night, the drive shaft craps itself. But that's not gonna stop me. I found a drive shaft same day, went and pulled it myself, swapped it, and we were ready to go drag racing. We went drag racing Friday night, and it was glorious. I had so much fun. I smoked some Mustangs. That was in the end of March. The car, it ran flawless. I was just so happy with the car at that point. And then the following Monday, this happened. That's second gear, or lack thereof. I was just driving to work like normal, doing full throttle pulls. I knew it was bound to happen. It's a 5-speed, they're glass. So the same week that happened, I took on a different position at my job, and all of a sudden the Car Passion channel had to go on the back burner for like 3 months. Fast forward to July. At that point I looked at the calendar and saw that there were only 2 months to Miatas at Laguna Seca, so I had to get myself in gear and get the Getrag swap finished. Now in my head at this point, the Getrag swap was the only thing between me and having a reliable 400 horsepower Miata. So naturally, I was very motivated to get that swap done. September 3rd was the first time that I got to drive the car with the Getrag swap, and it was pretty cool, but the transmission was leaking oil everywhere, and I had a pretty nasty drivetrain vibration. The oil leak was fixed with some seals, but the drivetrain vibration turned out to be a little harder to track down, and it ended up being pretty much 2 months of shipping things back and forth with Miata. They're very helpful the whole time in helping me figure things out. While trying to get the drivetrain vibration figured out, the ECU develops a problem where it shuts the car off after 15 minutes of driving. But I don't want to send the ECU away while I'm in the middle of trying to solve the drivetrain vibration with Miata, because that's going to be downtime where I can't work on the car. So I just focus on one thing at a time. I keep driving the Miata for 15 minutes and then stopping and waiting for it to reset itself or something. At the end of October, we finally arrive at the fact that the drive shaft was the problem. It wasn't really any company's fault that the problem existed. There was just something about that drive shaft that didn't get along with my setup. So I swap it out, and then it's dialed. The Getrag swap's dialed. The Miata is dialed except for the ECU problem, but I can still drive it. So I'm so excited. I drive it until I run it out of 91 octane, and I pump that thing full of the 85. I crank the boost, and the clutch slips on the first pull. What else could possibly go wrong with this thing? So, as you saw in the last video, I ordered the ACT clutch and I swapped that out, and at the same time sent the ECU off for warranty. And that's where the car sits right now. I'm just waiting for the ECU to come back. It doesn't look like it's gonna be back before the end of the year, which kind of sounds bad, but it's actually good for 2 reasons. Number 1, we're gonna be starting 2019 off 400 horsepower strong, mark my words. Number 2, the Miata is down, so I can't really film anything about it. So I guess that means I have to unveil the new project, which I'm surprised that no one has figured out what it is. There were some accurate guesses on the last video, but the last 3 videos that I posted, there are 1 to 2 visual Easter eggs that completely show you what it is. So if you're looking for some extra entertainment, go back and watch those videos and see if you can find it. If you can't find it, then I guess you're just gonna have to wait till the next video to find out what it is. But anyways, I just want to make this video to tell you guys, you know, no matter how many problems you run into, no matter how easy you think something is going to be on your build and it ends up being ridiculously hard, just stay motivated, keep pushing forward. No matter how many boost leaks you find, no matter how many times you have to rewire things, no matter how many clutches you go through, no matter how many O2 sensors your car burns out, no matter how many other people you see enjoying their builds while your car sits on jack stands, stay motivated. Just envision the end of your project. Envision how sick it's going to be the first time you get to pull out of the driveway, which might go smoother than mine, or it might not, but you'll get there eventually. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching the Car Passion channel throughout 2018. I'm looking forward to kicking off 2019 strong. Thank you guys for all the support and your viewership, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.